Welcome to Friday Night Highlights, brought to you by Moody's Tire and Auto.
Visit us at Moody's Tire for all your tire and automotive needs.
Stop by and see us at 1600 Columbia Avenue.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into the Week 12 edition of the Moody's Tire and Auto Service Prep Football Extra. I'm Joe Williams, the sports editor of the Williamson Herald, and, of course, you know our expert, Maurice Patton. But the guy that you don't normally get to see, he's normally behind the camera, who's also an expert, our own Charles Pulliam. Welcome into the crew.
Well, I wouldn't go expert, too. I want to give that status to Mo, especially, you know.
Kissing up already. Behind us, you notice we've got the Brentwood Bruin Bear behind us, simply because on the other side of the camera, the Bruins are getting ready for their contest Friday night, a rematch with Centennial. And let's talk just a minute about how Brentwood got into this contest. They were an underdog, guys, going to Memphis Central last week, and all of a sudden rack up 55 points and just walk right over that Memphis Central bunch. That's saying something.
Yeah, you know, we all thought that Ron Crawford was going to have an impact here at Brentwood. We didn't necessarily know it was going to be this soon. Put up a really good region performance and, played Henry County close a few weeks ago. They get on the bus, they go down to Memphis Central, and really I wasn't necessarily surprised that they won. I'm surprised at the margin, but you felt like something good was going to happen for this team just the way they were continuing to come on as the season progressed.
They just kept getting better and better. And Charles, we saw that even though they lost two of their last three regular season games, they lost it to the regional champ and the runner-up. Of course, the regional champ is the one they get to see again this week in what is becoming kind of an arch rival almost in Centennial.
Well, I go back to that, you're talking about the matchup here with Centennial, 24-10 game there, and Brian Rector after that one was a little more relieved. The score's kind of not really showing what that game really was like. Carson Croy, the Brentwood quarterback, was able to show some weakness there in that back secondary, and that was something Rector wanted to clean up right away. They were able to do that, obviously, moving forward here, but Carson's been on a roll here, and the offense for Brentwood has really clicked as well, as you see that season high last week.
Not exactly the game Coach Rector wanted last week either, having to beat Southwind, and boy, it wasn't easy.
This Southwind game, that was all fourth quarter game. The first three quarters were pretty rugged, actually. It was muddy out. It was just a sloppy field. Some calls weren't really going the right way either, too. Just the flow wasn't there. Fourth quarter, it came out to be a real game. Tyrell Dotson, 2 fourth quarter touchdowns, the game winner. They rallied from a 14-12 deficit, and Centennial takes that one. That was a great fourth quarter game, not a full game, but Centennial able to get some momentum there.
Yeah, 20 penalties in that game for almost 200 yards. Those are the ones that stuck. I understand there were 4 or 5 more that were picked up and waved off. I dare say we won't see that kind of yellow flag fever this week.
Well, hopefully we won't see that crew this week from what I understand. I was not at that game, but from everybody I've talked to that was at that game, that officiating crew didn't exactly get rave reviews. So I think that this game will be a little bit cleaner. Centennial, Brentwood, they're both playing well. It's not an out-of-area team. Again, different officiating crews kind of have different pet peeves and that kind of thing. I was out at Stratford Fairview last week, a lot of illegal procedures and that kind of thing. And it's things that teams say, well, we've been doing this all year. And, well, you're not going to do it tonight. Yeah. But, so you kind of run into that because they bring these crews in from out of area. And they officiate a little bit differently, and obviously that was kind of the situation at Centennial Southwind. Of course, I do think that a touchback, the ball has to cross the goal line, not the 5. So I think that's regardless of where you are. So
all these done, of course, in very positive comments. We won't take them that way.
Absolutely.
By those that are watching.
Yeah.
Friday night, 7 o'clock at Centennial. You want to get there early because, let's face it, parking's going to be at a premium because this is one of those where everybody in Brentwood and everybody in Franklin is going to be at Centennial Friday night.
Maybe not everybody in Franklin.
No, there you go.
Yeah.
Speaking of not everybody going to Centennial and Franklin, you're right. Most of Franklin City is zoned to Centennial. There's a lot that come to Franklin High School out of the grassland area, but it won't matter because they're all going to be at Franklin High School when they host Wilson Central. Now, these two have already played, obviously, in the region. 35-3 Franklin win. Lanham Craddock, 245 yards of rushing, but Charles, he ain't there tonight.
Well, and that's something that Franklin's been able to overcome the last couple weeks here. We've seen some great running plays by Matthew Burns. He's finding the gaps there. They're adjusting accordingly. I'm impressed with this Franklin team, able to overcome a couple injuries here. And we're not confirmed if Kyle Evans is out this week. I'm not sure. But he did leave with that shoulder injury in the first-round win there. So a couple injuries here going against Franklin, and they're still finding ways to win. And I like Matthew Burns. I like Wes Patterson coming in there as well. So we'll see what they can do.
Mo Patterson came in the other night, did okay, did what he needed to do. He's 1-4. But if you're a quarterback, if you're in Kyle Evans' place, the shoulder that popped out is not his throwing shoulder. I'm telling him I feel good.
You know, and it's not his throwing shoulder. He's a senior.
Yeah.
So those are two factors there that I would imagine will play heavily into his availability Friday night. You know, you don't want to end your career on the sidelines if you can avoid doing so. And so I think I think there's a better than even chance that you're going to see Kyle Evans. But at the same time, like you said, Wes Patterson was the starter to start the season for Franklin before Kyle kind of eased into that spot. So this is a kid that they've got some confidence in as a coaching staff. And again, Matthew Burns has come on, but I talked to Brad Dedman, the Wilson Central coach, here earlier this week, and he said that they had a few guys out on defense for that first game, and they expect to have those guys back. So while Franklin may be a little altered by some injuries, Wilson Central's got some guys back, and they went on the road and beat a pretty good Cordova team down there, 28-9 after getting down 9-0. So Wilson Central's coming in with a lot of confidence and that kind of thing, and this could be a little closer than 35-3.
We're in a working area. The kicker had to come get a football. I mean, we're kind of interfering in their territory right now. So, you know, these things are going to happen. The other Region 6, not Region 6, but 6A.
Yeah, there you go.
Has our friends up at Ravenwood at home. They get Johnny O. Overton High School out of Nashville, and again, these two have already played. Ravenwood won earlier this year, but not without having to get some things taken care of.
Yeah, and that was really the Region 3 teams went 6-2 against the Region 4 teams here, so that's why we're seeing a lot of familiar faces in these matchups in the second round here. But Ravenwood, you come down, it's that offense has just been something. And it starts with Chris Rowland, who's just a versatile playmaker. He could get it done, whether you're kicking to him, whether you can hand it off to him. He's going to catch a few here and there. He just has the speed that's pretty unrivaled around here, and he can get Ravenwood rolling, and that's what they did against Overton last time. It was a 38-7 game, and now with Overton coming in here off a last-second field goal for the win, these guys are feeling up a little bit, but I think Ravenwood is just that much, just too many weapons.
Yeah, Chris Rowland, by the way, over 2,000 yards in total offense between rushing, receiving. He's a favorite receiver, has more receiving yards than anybody else on the team, and obviously the top threat as a return guy. I mean, this is a kid who ought to have a list of offers as long as my arm.
He's not bad. He's not bad. And you know, the recruiting thing is so frustrating to watch because they want a kid to fit into a certain physical mold. A lot of these coaches seem to before they'll take a look at him. Chris Rowland's a football player.
Yeah.
And whether he's 5'9" or whether he's 6'3", Chris Rowland's a football player, and somebody's eventually going to get a steal. I think he had a visit down to Georgia State here in the last week or so, and that would be a great fit for him, Sun Belt. And he can go and do a lot of what he's doing for Ravenwood, I think. But, in addition to Rowland, Connor Jeffries is a guy who, if you concentrate too much on the edge, he can bust it right up the middle for you. Andrew Rapay is a little bit different quarterback than what they've had at Ravenwood, but he's been awfully effective for him. The Nelson kid who has come in because Jeffries has had some concussion issues the last couple of weeks and has been out. He's come in and played well for him. It's just like you said, Ravenwood's got too many offensive weapons, and defensively, they stop people. So
very well.
Yeah, very often. So it's gonna be a tough go for Overton. Like you said, they lost 38-7 to Ravenwood a few weeks ago. Senior night for Ravenwood. They're feeling pretty good after the win over Germantown at Houston. But I'm just not sure that this is a good matchup for Overton this week.
No, this one's going to be tough. This one's going to be real tough. Going to be tough, too, for Hendersonville, I think, as they come in to face the folks.
We are in a working area.
Yes, we are. We're in a working area. As they come in to face Independence. Now, a couple of things here. One, Hendersonville would like to continue and Independence undefeated, number 1 in the state. But more than that, I think they're still remembering last year and the defeat in the first round that put them out of the playoffs. Do you think they really need that kind of motivation, Charles?
Well, that's when you're it's hard to determine that kind of thing, but it's definitely in the back of their minds. You got to think that you're losing at Hendersonville against a tough team, but this matchup is, we talk about county-wise, it's going to be hard to beat a Centennial Brentwood matchup. State-wise, I think it's kind of hard to beat an Indy-Hendersonville matchup right now. This is one where the winner of this one advancing, you're likely going to have a state title looking team there. I mean, a contender without a doubt. Both of them are right there. They're ranked 1 and 2 in the state in the AP poll. These guys are on a collision course, and whoever comes out of this one is a favorite, I think. And this is I want to spend most of my time on Friday night checking this game. It's just fireworks, I think, that are coming out of that one. When you throw in a little bit of revenge factor for Indy, when you throw in Hendersonville having to come on the road like that, both of these teams are going to be up. I think this is going to be a fun game.
Maurice, the fun part would be watching how Indy reacts to Coach Hatfield bringing that wing tee offense down here. Boy, the thing about the wing tee is if you can get it going and get ahead, it is tough to stop. But you can't play from behind with the wing tee.
Now, the flip side to that, though, is their quarterback went 8 for 8 for 98 yards last week in their win, and I'm trying over Shelbyville. So if they can throw it a little bit to throw that in along with what they do in the run game with the wing tee, they get so many people involved, and it forces you to be so disciplined defensively that if your eyes get you can't believe everything you see with the wing tee, and so you got to have good eye discipline with that, and Indy has been so aggressive defensively that aggressiveness can get you in trouble if you're not careful. So if Hendersonville is able to get some things going offensively against Independence's defense, then that's kind of the recipe for them to pull off the upset on the road, because then you're keeping Indy's high-powered offense on the sidelines as well, and you're eating up clock. And then when they can dump a little pass over the middle or something like that from time to time just to kind of throw the defense off, it could be a real interesting ball game.
Final game we're going to look at this week is a final one in the county. Brentwood Academy, number 1 in Division II AA, hosting Briarcrest, probably best known for Michael Orr and The Blind Side. Not count their titles; they've won a couple. But guys, I don't see anybody coming into Brentwood and beating the Eagles.
Well, we talked about with Ravenwood, once again, so many weapons there, and they're clicking. They've clicked ever since a Week 2 loss to Trinity, from who's a nationally ranked team from Kentucky. So these guys, it's just tough to go against them with anything, especially at home. They're finally getting to play here in the playoffs. They had a first-round bye, only 3 first-round games, I think, in Division II AA. But when you think of Brentwood Academy getting on the roll and finally getting to play, I think this might be one of those ones where they're ready to just kind of go for it,
That offense has been awfully stout, Maurice. I think the last 6 games they're averaging 50-plus points.
They can put some points up. I saw them put 48 up on your defending state champ MBA a few weeks ago. Scored 53 against what's supposed to be a pretty good University Christian team out of Jacksonville, Florida. They can put some points up, and like Charles said, they've got weapons all over the place. Start with the quarterback, Jeremiah Oatsvall, who's a Mr. Football finalist, just a junior. Cameron Johnson, great receiver, just a sophomore. They've got those 3 SEC commitments in the line. They're big where you're supposed to be big, and they're fast where you're supposed to be fast, and it's a pretty good combination for them.
And I think it'll continue to be one, too. That is what we're looking for in week number 12. Well, hopefully week 13 we'll be back with just as many county teams. Obviously, we'll lose one Friday night. That's going to be one of those games you're going to hate to see anybody lose, but that's something that'll just have to happen. We're going to get out of here and get ready for Friday night. For Maurice Patton and Charles Pulliam, I'm Joe Williams. Thank you so much for joining us on the Moody's Tire and Auto Football Extra.